So ever since I had touted the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro as the world's best sounding true wireless buds, it seems with the release of the new Buds 3 Pro, everyone is asking the same question. Crin, is the new Buds 3 Pro the new best sounding true wireless buds of all time? No. But now you probably have even more questions, so let's just run through them one by one, shall we? First of all, for those of you who are new to this channel, you're probably asking yourselves, who is this guy? What's his credentials? Who is he to tell me what I should think about true wireless buds? So hello, my name is Crinacle. I run crinacle.com, what used to be my review website, though now I run Hangout.audio, my online retail store. But more importantly, what people most know me for is the fact that I run the world's largest public database of headphone and earphone measurements, not a flex. Just the facts. On top of that, I also used to run what might be the most prolific IEM ranking list with over 1,000 individual models tested. And of course, some reviews here and there. Some of you might know me for the fact that I again talked about the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro and how I shilled it to the ends of the earth. So yes, with the release of the new Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, naturally everyone and their mothers have started asking me the same damn question. Crin, please review it. I know you're retired, but please review it anyway. So here I am. So some of you regulars to the channel may know me as the guy who really doesn't give a shit about the non-audio stuff, but since this is a much more mainstream video, let's just run through the gauntlet as quickly as we can. First of all, the build quality of the Buds 3 Pro is pretty good. The shells are metal, the stems are metal, the case is semi-metallic, I guess, and of course comes with a transparent top. It feels sturdy, it feels good, and quite frankly, if you put them side by side with something like the AirPods Pro 2, you realize that the gap in build quality is just enormous. Now that said, there is a reason why I didn't get to review the Buds 3 Pro as early as I could have. So what happened was that there was kind of a pseudo recall of the Buds 3 Pros, at least on the earlier units. So I did receive a Buds 3 Pro, let's say a few months ago. I took pictures, I posted it on Twitter as well as on YouTube, and then complete radio silence. Why? Because I had to return it. So what was claimed was that there was a lot of user issues on, let's say, the ear tips being torn off when you tried to remove them, or even in terms of the aesthetics, there were some issues in terms of panel gaps. There were just inconsistencies, or sometimes the gaps were just too wide. So at some point, Samsung just said, hey, we will just replace your Buds 3 Pro if you have any issues with it. And for my case, because I took a media sample, they immediately asked for it back. So I'm not sure about the later batches, but at least for the one that I have received, everything seems in place. Now, in terms of battery life, this one is a bit of a disappointment. Current tests indicate that the battery life lasts for 4-ish hours, which is far below the stated of like 6 hours, and even below the bar that the AirPods Pro 2 as well as the Buds 2 Pro have set around 5-ish hours. In terms of environmental resistance, they currently have an IP57 rating, which is up from the previous of IPX7. Fit and comfort for my ears are pretty good, especially for a stem fit, because they can go right in there and feels fairly secure inside my ears. My main issue is more the fact that with these kinds of true wireless buds, they tend to sit very shallow in the ear, but with good enough fit, with good enough tips, they seem to mitigate that problem altogether. Now, in terms of connectivity and convenience, well, it's a Samsung product, and naturally I use a Samsung phone, so there is really not much that can go wrong here. That's it. When I use it with my Huawei phone, well, but things are still just fine. It just works like a standard Bluetooth module. Now, ANC performance, or active noise cancelling, this is where things get a little bit dire. You see, the biggest issue with the Buds 3 Pro in terms of ANC performance is the fact that there's not actually a lot of low frequency attenuation going on. Especially when you compare it with the predecessor, which is the Buds 2 Pro, you realize very obviously that the Buds 3 Pro just simply lacks when it comes to, let's say, attenuating engine noise or even just low frequency rumbles. This is also data that is corroborated by many other measure baiters in the space, for example, Aragina, 0dB, as well as Soundguys. For whatever reason, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 just simply does not cancel out the low frequencies as well as its competition. That said, it is slightly improved in the attenuation of the mid frequencies, but I feel like the sacrifice in the low frequency performance just simply isn't worth it. So in terms of ANC, I'm just disappointed. If your top priority is in sound isolation, then do not get the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro. A lot of the other competition will be better in this regard. For example, the Apple AirPods Pro 2 or even its predecessor, the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. And finally, the microphone performance, and the fact that it uses a stem design means that the audio pickup is so much better than its predecessors.
This is a mic test for the Buds 3 Pro in a quiet setting. This is a mic test for the Buds 2 Pro in a quiet setting. This is a mic test for the Buds 3 Pro in a noisy setting. This is a mic test for the Buds 2 Pro in a noisy setting.
So in terms of the non-audio stuff, well, it's kind of more misses than hits, but let's now talk about the very reason why you're here. The reason why you come to Uncle Crinacle. The sound quality. So I think at this point everyone would know that Samsung is an owner of Harman International, which means that all the research that they had done over the decades is now for them to use as well. So the previous Galaxy Buds were all tuned to some variation of the Harman target. The Harman target is basically just a statistical average of what is preferred by the most amount of listeners. And this trend just continued all the way until I feel like right now, where the Buds 3 Pro doesn't seem to be targeting any kind of the Harman target. In fact, it's a very deep V-shaped, far deeper of a V-shape than the Harman target actually is. Now, a quick aside, the Buds 3 Pro uses a 10.5mm dynamic driver woofer as well as a 6.1mm planar magnetic tweeter. Now, all of this is pretty interesting from my perspective, an audio enthusiast perspective. They're using what I would say seems to be a coaxial-ish configuration, and yeah, even in the mainstream crowd, not a lot of people seem to be using planar tweeters. But again, all of that doesn't matter if it doesn't sound good. So does it? Well, it doesn't sound bad. I'm just gonna rip off the band-aid and say that I still prefer the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. The Galaxy Buds 2 Pro is a very, very well-tuned true wireless set. It's not hard on the Harman target, but it deviates from a way that I like. It sounds normal and yet still sounds very impactful. Still one of the best sounding true wireless sets that I've ever had the pleasure of testing. The Buds 3 Pro, however, it goes for a much more colored approach. And of course, some people prefer that. I personally do not. The bass is enhanced far beyond to what I would consider a clean boost. I can detect that it is slowly starting to encroach upon the lower mids. It is starting to bleed a little bit, and that just simply is a big no-no for me. Sure, you can say that there's a lot of impact, there's a lot of bass, but at the same time, if you were just asking me, I would say I'll prefer it if they just dial it back a little bit. But on top of that, on top of the bass boost, there is also a treble boost, which is why I say it's a lot more V-shaped, literally a bass and a treble emphasis. It's to the point where I feel like it's a little bit too energetic. Sure, it's balanced out by the big bass, but it's an imbalance that is kind of balanced out by its imbalance. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. But at this point, I feel like I need to say that the Buds 3 Pro is not terrible. It's not an irredeemable true wireless bud. It's a different flavor. But in terms of the metrics and standards that I myself hold, it doesn't quite live up to them. The overall detail and resolution of the Buds 3 Pro is also just okay. I'm not exactly detecting the improvements that the planar tweeter gives. On this front, I would say that it's kind of on par with the Buds 2 Pro. I'm not gonna say that the Buds 3 is more detailed than the Buds 2. So on that front, I feel like it's just a wash. What's weird about all of this is that, of course, I have to test it with the ANC on, and that is where I feel like all of the weird modifications start to kick in. Because when you listen to the Buds 3 Pro without any ANC, it actually sounds pretty good. Still not as good, I feel, as the Buds 2 Pro, but a definite improvement to when you turn on the ANC. I think overall it just sounds more natural without the ANC. The mids tend to flatten out a little bit more, and that's just the tuning that I prefer. So comparisons, and at this point I'll just give the two most obvious comparisons. First of all will be with its predecessor, the Buds 2 Pro. The Buds 2 Pro goes for a much more Harman-tuned signature, whereas the Buds 3 Pro wants to go for a much more mainstream, V-shaped, exciting signature. Now, you may like that kind of thing. It's just that, again, if you're asking me personally, I would pick the Buds 2 Pro. The Buds 3 Pro, in terms of just the general tuning, feels a little bit muddier as well as more sibilant compared to the Buds 2 Pro. Some would consider this more exciting, more impactful, as well as sharper. So it really depends on who you're asking. In terms of ANC, yes, I've already mentioned it and I'll say it again, the Buds 2 Pro is far superior to the Buds 3 Pro. I don't know what happened here. The Buds 2 Pro just simply isolates so much more of the low frequency noises, so they're much more appropriate to bring on a plane, on a car, on a bus, etc, etc. The Buds 3 Pro has marginal improvements in the mid frequencies, but quite frankly, when I hear them side by side, I don't really detect that improvement. The two redeeming factors that I can give to the Buds 3 Pro is, first of all, the build quality is clearly much better built compared to its predecessor, and of course the microphone quality, which the stem design helps improve massively. Now, in terms of outside the Samsung ecosystem, we of course have the most obvious comparison, the Apple AirPods Pro 2. Now, even in my review, I've said that the AirPods Pro 2 is kind of neck and neck with the Buds 2 Pro in terms of overall sound quality. Now, if you're asking me, I'll still give a slight edge to the Buds 2 Pro, but I still use the AirPods Pro 2 quite often because even though it's a slight departure from what I like, it's still a very neutral, very natural sounding TWS and a tuning that is superior to even many wired earphones nowadays. Now, since I've already regarded the Buds 2 Pro as well as the AirPods Pro 2 as neck and neck, you can already see that I prefer the AirPods Pro 2 over the Buds 3 Pro in terms of sound quality. The AirPods Pro 2 just sounds so much more natural and balanced. Sure, credit where credit is due, you can consider the Buds 3 Pro as much more of an exciting listen given its enhanced bass as well as treble. But in terms of how natural everything sounds, the timbre, how balanced everything is, you can see why I don't favor the Buds 3 Pro as much. And in terms of ANC performance, well, as the market leader, the AirPods Pro 2 reigns supreme. Now, the only redeeming quality I can find in this comparison would be the build quality. The Buds 3 Pro comes in, again, the full metal build and everything, while the AirPods Pro 2 comes in a full plastic build. But even when you compare with something like the microphone quality, which again, the Buds 3 Pro improves on its predecessors by leaps and bounds, still not quite as good as the AirPods Pro 2.
This is a mic test for the Buds 3 Pro in a quiet setting. This is a mic test for the AirPods Pro 2 in a quiet setting. This is a mic test for the Buds 3 Pro in a noisy setting. This is a mic test for the AirPods Pro 2 in a noisy setting.
So my final thoughts, the too long didn't watch. The Buds 3 Pro improves on its predecessors in terms of build quality owing to its metal build, as well as on its microphone quality owing to its new stem design. However, in terms of ANC performance as well as sound quality, I feel like it just falls short in terms of the Buds 2 Pro. The ANC quality is markedly inferior in terms of blocking out the lowest frequencies, and in terms of general sound quality, they've gone for a tuning that's much more emphasized in the bass as well as in the treble, owing to a much more exciting listen. But because of that, it also loses its naturalness and doesn't sound as balanced as its predecessor. Battery life is also a big pain point, with reports coming in at around 4-ish hours. I myself managed to register about 4.5 hours, which is far below the par of 6 hours. And also the light, because it is just gamery. So yeah, that is my review of the new Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 Pro. And as a guy who has long since loved the Samsung Galaxy Buds lineup, this is probably the biggest disappointment I've had in recent years. That said, if there's any reason why you would like to try one out, well, instead of going to a Samsung store, you can also come down to the Hangout. We're located at 29B Mall Street, level 3 in. Don't listen to old crinacle, we have moved. Now we are located at 200 South Bridge Road in Chinatown on the ground floor. So you can come to our new location, grab a cup of coffee or even a cup of ice cream, try it out for yourself, and then form your own opinion. Just want to make this small change clear here, so back to you, old crinacle. Now, for those of you who have subscribed to the $20 tier on my Patreon, here are all of your beautiful, beautiful names. And for those of you who have subscribed to my $30 tier, let me speak yours now. Dennis, Crinacle, Andrew, Seraphim, Like Pizza, Chemotherapy, Darrow, Nano, and Trouble, well, extended. I thank you all. So all of you must be really happy right now. I finally did it, huh? And with that, I'll see you all next week, and don't die. Fuck off.